The Las Vegas Raiders made a noteworthy move by drafting Charles Grant, a prospect already penciled in as a developmental offensive tackle. Some believe he could step in as a day-one starter, but that feels like a stretch at this point. So, what does Grant bring to the table, and could he realistically crack the starting lineup right away? First off, Grant comes out of William & Mary, a program that's certainly not on the same level as Alabama or Georgia in terms of competition. Still, if you dive into his tape, it's clear he's loaded with elite physical traits. His athleticism jumps off the screen, especially in zone blocking schemes. Grant shows impressive movement skills and the kind of fluidity that puts him among the top tier of tackle prospects when it comes to athletic upside. The Raiders seem to have drafted him with a clear vision, to mold him into a perfect fit for their outside zone-heavy scheme. This system thrives on mobility and quickness, and Grant's skill set matches that blueprint. Whether it's outside zone, wide zone, or even inside split zone concepts, he looks like an ideal fit, at least on paper. That said, it's important to be realistic. Grant isn't ready to step in and start right away. The smartest path forward would be to give him time to develop, much like the Raiders did with DJ Glaze last year. Glaze didn't start immediately, but earned his shot later in the season when injuries opened the door. Grant should follow a similar trajectory, working behind the scenes while sharpening his skills. Raiders coach PeteCarroll has already made it clear that Grant is viewed as a tackle prospect, while Caleb Rogers is being groomed more as an interior lineman. Right now, Rogers' tape is more polished and consistent, but Grant's ceiling is sky high. If he develops as expected, he has the potential to become a top 10 tackle in the league one day. But that's down the road. Right now, he's raw and needs to get acclimated to the speed and complexity of the pro game. There's been chatter about pushing Grant into a starting role, or even trading Kolton Miller to clear the way for him. That would be premature. Maintaining a strong, cohesive offensive line is crucial, and the Raiders don't need to rush this process. Just look at how teams like the Chiefs and Eagles have built their success. When their offensive lines are solid, everything else clicks, and championships become possible. The bottom line? Grant has the tools, the upside, and the fit. Now it's about patience, development, and letting him grow into the player he's capable of becoming. It's no secret that the best defensive lines tend to pave the way for team success. For the Raiders, keeping Kolton Miller locked in as the starting left tackle for the next 5 years should be a top priority. He's a proven asset, and there's no reason to shake that up. On the other side, Charles Grant should focus on developing as a right tackle. Between him and DJ Glaze, there's a solid competition brewing for that spot. Glaze likely has the edge for now, but the battle in training camp will tell the full story. The best player will win out, and the other could transition into a backup role or even move inside to guard. Add in Caleb Rogers and a few other depth pieces, and the Raiders have a promising mix of talent to work with. Let's not forget, the offensive line is anchored by one of the best guards in the league, Jackson Powers Johnson, and a strong presence at center. Altogether, this group has the potential to be a top 10 unit if things come together as expected. Bringing in Charles Grant was a smart move. His tape is impressive. His movement skills are elite, and his ability to execute reach blocks really stands out. The angles he takes in the run game are excellent. That said, there's work to be done. Grant needs to clean up his pass protection. He can get a bit too upright in his stance. His hand placement isn't always precise, and his snatch move still needs refinement. These are coachable issues, and with time, he should develop into a reliable starter. Is Grant going to be a top 10 tackle right away? No, and that's okay. You could watch a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson in college and immediately tell he was destined to be a top-tier NFL player. Same goes for tackles like Olu Fashanu and Darnell Wright, who showed from the start they were elite talents. Grant isn't at that level yet, but his potential is real if he's given time to grow. There's been talk about letting Grant start immediately or even trading Kolton Miller to make room for him, but that would be a mistake. It's too early for that kind of move. The best thing the Raiders can do is be patient and let Grant develop at his own pace. Switching gears, there's been some buzz around Amari Cooper possibly making a return to the Raiders. A well-known source on NFL Twitter, Slick Rick, who has a track record of breaking news before the big names, reported that Cooper is considering a reunion with Las Vegas. This came out after the draft, so it's not just early off-season noise. Adding Cooper back into the mix would be a major boost. The Raiders have potential at wide receiver, but potential only takes you so far. Right now, the core group includes Jacoby Myers, Jack Beck, and Trey Tucker. Of those three, only Myers has really proven himself in the league so far. Cooper's experience and playmaking ability could instantly elevate the passing game and give the offense a much-needed jolt. The Raiders are in a promising spot for the future, but to turn that promise into real success, their young talent has to develop, and making smart strategic moves like possibly bringing in Cooper could fast-track that process. Looking at the Raiders' wide receiver group heading into the season, there are real questions that need answering. Two of the three receivers they're likely to lean on, Jack Beck and Trey Tucker, haven't proven themselves at the NFL level yet. Betting on unproven players to carry a big load is always risky. And while there's plenty of potential, potential doesn't win games on its own. I'm not saying Jack Beck won't become a very good player. He absolutely could. But planning your offense around a rookie wide receiver and hoping for a breakout feels like a gamble. Even having Jakobi Meyers as your only proven option isn't quite enough. We've seen the best offenses in the league roll out 3 or 4 legit weapons. If the Raiders want to compete at the highest level, they need to keep building the roster and add experience where it matters. Of course, you've also got Brock Bowers at tight end and Ashton Genty in the backfield, and they'll play big roles too. But if the Raiders want to take the offense to that next tier, adding a wide receiver who can create separation consistently should be at the top of the priority list. That's where Amari Cooper comes in. Cooper would be a smart addition. I get that some fans are hesitant. He's not Justin Jefferson, and no one is claiming he is. But he's still an excellent route runner, still reliable, and still productive. Let's not forget, he had some great years with the Raiders earlier in his career, including a fantastic 2016 season. He knows how to get open, and if you throw him the ball, he's going to make plays. Right now, if you're planning to roll with Trey Tucker, who hasn't shown much yet, and Jack Beck, who will need time to adjust as a rookie, it's hard to feel fully confident. Could Beck surprise us and be on a 1,200-yard pace by midseason? Sure, but that's far from guaranteed. Dante Thornton Jr. also has upside, but he was a 4th-round pick for a reason. He's raw and will need time to develop. The bottom line, the Raiders shouldn't waste this season. They should aim to win now. If Amari Cooper is genuinely considering a return, and Slick Rick, who's broken plenty of news before, says he is, then the Raiders need to take that seriously. Cooper would immediately be one of the top 2 receivers on the roster. You could argue whether he or Jakobi Meyers is the better option at this point in their careers, but either way, Cooper's route running and separation skills would elevate the group. Plus, for young guys like Jack Beck, having someone like Cooper to learn from would be huge. Don't underestimate what Cooper brought to the development of players like CeeDee Lamb in Dallas or even Jerry Jeudy's growth with the Browns. Of course, it all comes down to the money. If Cooper's asking for something in the $8 million range, that's a move I'd fully support. If he's looking for $18 million, though, that's a different conversation, and I'd be out at that number. Right now, the Raiders' wide receiver room has upside and potential, but it's hard to say it's ready to dominate from day one. And while some people believe the Raiders are a team on the rise, Raiders will need an offensive-driven approach to win games this year. I tend to agree, at least to a point, because there are still plenty of unproven pieces on defense. I've got to be honest, I wasn't blown away by every move the Raiders made on defense this offseason. I do like Darian Porter a lot, but the big question remains, do we have enough, especially in the secondary? Even if Porter steps up and is a day-one starter, what about the other spots? Do we have enough at safety? What about slot corner? Who's locking down the spot opposite Porter? There are still a lot of unknowns. The Raiders absolutely need to keep looking at free agency to shore up the defense, especially if the goal is to make a real push, while Geno Smith, at 35 years old, still has some good football left in him. This team wants to win now, and there's no room for holes on that side of the ball. We'll see how it plays out, but for me, adding Amari Cooper on offense remains a top priority too. Now let's talk about a move that might not get as much attention, but could have a huge impact. The Raiders just poached a highly respected scout from the Philadelphia Eagles, Anthony Patch. He's been named a senior personnel executive in Las Vegas, and I want to break down what that could mean. If you follow the NFL closely, you know the Eagles have built one of the league's strongest rosters, not because of coaching or quarterback play alone, but because of their incredible ability to draft and develop talent. That's what sets them apart. Patch has been a huge part of that. People in the know credit him with helping Howie Roseman build those dominant Eagles drafts. Sure, not every pick hits. Jordan Davis, for instance, was a high first-rounder who hasn't fully developed beyond a solid run defender. But then you look at what they've done with guys like Jalen Carter, who came with some off-field concerns but has already proven to be a monster on the field. Their second-round steals are just as impressive. Landon Dickerson is a great example. Coming out of Alabama, he was one of the best interior O-linemen in his class. The Eagles took him, moved him from center to left guard, and now he's an all-pro. I had Dickerson graded extremely high coming out, right there with guys like Creed Humphrey and Jackson Powers Johnson in terms of tape quality. Patch also played a key role in drafting Cam Jurgens, another second-rounder who's already cashed in with one of the biggest center deals in the league. For context, Patch was the Eagles' senior director of college scouting. He wasn't just part of the draft process, he led it. He was the guy putting together their draft board, evaluating talent, and making sure the Eagles prioritized the right players. Now, the Raiders have brought him in as a senior personnel executive. I'm not 100% sure what that title entails just yet, but Patch's background is rooted in scouting. And he's no stranger to the Raiders' new front office. He worked with GM Tom Telesco back in the mid-2000s, so there's a long-standing relationship there. What I'm saying is this: there are people in the league who are absolute pros at their jobs, and Patch might be one of those guys for the Raiders. The draft may be over this year, and by all accounts, the Raiders had a solid one. But imagine what they can do in 2026 with someone like Patch helping to steer the ship. And let me just end with this: never underestimate the power of a front office that knows what it's doing. This could end up being one of the smartest moves the Raiders have made in a long time. At the end of the day, it's your ability to draft well. Whether it's through your main draft picks or undrafted free agents, UDFAs, that determines if you're going to build a Super Bowl contender. It's not about free agency. Don't get me wrong. I like the Christian Wilkins signing a lot. But the reality is, when you pay a guy like Wilkins $27 million a year, you're paying for what he already did over his first 5 years in the league. There's no guarantee you're getting that same production moving forward. Look at the Eagles again. They drafted Milton Williams, a defensive tackle, in the 3rd round. He was solid early on and really broke out in his 3rd and 4th years. Now, he's cashing in with a $26 to $27 million per year deal from the Panthers. That's why drafting matters so much. It's how you build sustainable success. And speaking of that, don't sleep on the UDFA pool. That's just as critical as the draft itself. One guy who's really turning heads right now is linebacker Amari Cooper. He was an undrafted pickup by the Raiders last year and has looked like the real deal from day one. I remember early in training camp when stories started trickling out that Gaynor was standing out, outplaying guys like Amari Burney and even Tommy Eichenberg, who came in as a 5th-round pick out of Ohio State. Right now, if you're asking me who could break into the starting lineup from the linebacker group, Gaynor is that guy. Devin White and Elandon Roberts are penciled in as the starters, no question. But Gaynor's got a real shot to carve out a significant role. He was outstanding in the preseason, and while I know it's just preseason, his performances popped in a way the other linebackers didn't. Recently, we've seen clips of Gaynor working out at Linebacker University, a well-known spot where a lot of NFL players train in the offseason. He's grinding to get better, stronger, quicker, sharper, and that's exactly what you want to see. This kid is serious about making a real impact for the Raiders, and I'm excited to keep tracking his progress. That's going to wrap it up for today. I want to hear from you guys. Are you on board with Amari Cooper making a return to the Raiders if the deal is right? What are your predictions for the linebacker group this season? And what's your take on the Anthony Patch hire? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you check out the video on Charles Grant that I've pinned below. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time with another update.